And then thank you very much, Mira, Givari, Aul, Fanny, and then Intan. And I hope it could be interesting discussion. It could be interesting discussions.
Definitely,
Because,
it would be. It would be
have,
interesting.
yeah, we have Ferdian. I know you are. It's like English expert. Maybe I called it English expert.
Don't don't say it like that.
Yeah,
I'm still
because
learning though.
yeah, of course, everyone here is still learning, but at least
Yeah.
for how long time you've been learning English for maybe?
Wow, I think the way it all began, the way it all began was completely terrifying. Like I started
Yeah.
learning my English since 2009 when I was in junior high school, and
You're right.
I started by listening to the songs. Yeah, I started by listening to the songs that I really like, and I keep listening and imitating the way they speak and pronounce and sing every word. I keep kind of like I keep posting the video, to catch the meaning of the song and also the way they speak as well. And yeah, the learning process has been very difficult and painful, to be honest. And after that, it was continued by reading some books and watching movies. And now for nearly 6 years, I've been focusing on learning about the accents, the British accents. I have got all the sources from the BBC News and also just to write English. Sometimes I'm reading BBC News articles as well, and listening to the BBC Radio Manchester and the BBC News podcasts. And yeah, I think those sources have played a significant role and in my English. And I've gained my self-confidence after learning from those tools. And yeah, I can see the result. Like everything comes at a price, and such a result needs quite some time. Like you have to be patient, because your patience is going to be tested and it's going to be challenged when you're dealing with English. So keep up the good work and find your own methods. I think, the most important thing about find the most suitable methods for your English. If you like, music, just keep going on with it. If you like watching news, try to find some media platforms that you can use. If you like talking to the people, find some communities so it can help you. So for me, besides, doing self-learning, I also joined to some English clubs with you as well, Kang Budi, and we are learning and sharing about any knowledge together. And isn't that a good thing? And it's been very lovely to know new people, new backgrounds, and new exposures.
Yep.
And I feel like I feel like I'm really granted with English, because English has contributed a lot in my career, in my social life, and also my communities.
So thank you for nice conversation in the beginning of this podcast. Thank you for it. Maybe let's go to the next question about the method. Maybe can you give us some like advice? What is the best method in learning English? Maybe you can give us some ways. The best method.
As I have
one more first. What are the advantages to join club like this or Abu Seno maybe? Go ahead, Ferd.
Okay, not just Abu Seno. I think you can find another community. For instance, well, the methods as I have just mentioned before, you have to find the things that you really like. The thing that can kind of like fit on you. If I would recommend you with my methods, I'm afraid it wouldn't work well. It wouldn't go any much further. But you have to find your own paths in learning about English. And for example, like my friend of mine, he's kind of like a person who really passionate in talking to the people and also about English as well. because he's been forced to do that by his company, and he's been trying to find the best method for him. He hasn't, it hasn't been revealed yet until he kind of like he asked me. And so what I have to do is, and I talked to him like, what do you really like? What do you like? Oh yeah, I like watching sports. Starting from watching sports, you can find kind of like the vocabularies, the grammatical structures, and you can find your role model. And it's very important. If you want to be sounding more like a native speaker, you have to find some role models as your references in learning about English. If you want to sound like a native speaker, it doesn't mean that you have to get rid your accents completely, but it means that you're trying to kind of like find the different cultural understanding in copying the people's kind of like people's perspectives or people's style in the way they speak, in the way they behave, in the way they respond. And it's very important to find some people who came from the origin English countries that you can implement to your life. Oh, I want to be kind of sounding like him. So I will keep watching, listening, and, focusing on the way they speak, the intonation, the stress patterns, and how can he or she plays with their mimics, their expressions. And, it would bring a lot of, benefits for your long-term learning process. And yeah, you have to do that. And another thing is about be disciplined, be patient, and be disciplined and be patient. And I don't know, I think just both of those things. You have to be disciplined. Oh, and consistent. The consistency is very important. Whether you skip even a day for your learning process, all the things that you have got a day before will be disappeared. Trust me. So it should be continuous, practice. The practice should be repeated. You have to make such a repetitive pattern in your kind of like learning process, in your daily life, when you're learning about English, when you're practicing your pronunciation. Yeah, is very necessary for your English. It's very necessary for your English. And English. And
Wait. Wait, Bert, can you unmute your? Yep. Yeah, go on.
Excuse me. What was the second question? I'm sorry.
About the
I have answered the
advantages to join the club. For instance, like Abu Seno or this club, Accounting English Club.
Yes, joining the English clubs will enlarge your links. You will be blended with new people, new backgrounds, and new perspectives. It makes you more open-minded. It makes you more assertive in react, any particular issue, and it will make you kind of like conceive the different type of relationships. I think it's very important. It will make you kind of like more open-minded and wise. You can be more wise in learning about English, knowing about different people, and there will be kind of like some arguments in a big of group. When you're talking in English, you can talk about anything. You can discuss about any topics that even they are quite controversial or even sensitive or taboo, but you can keep going on because you're talking without hesitation. In English, I felt like I'm more in touch with emotions when I'm using English rather than Indonesian. When it comes to Indonesian language, I feel more nerve-wracking, shy, and quite, be careful about what I'm saying to the people, because I'm afraid that people will get misinterpretation about my ideas when I deliver it. But in English, we feel free. We feel kind of like we've been given such a free access because we have the same vision in English, talking about anything. So English has a huge kind of like a huge aspects, not just about theoretical things that we have learned from the schools, but it can increase your capabilities in knowing about all across the world about what's currently happening in our life, in our world. So yeah, it's, it's, I don't know, it's been very outstanding. I've been overwhelmed by, English, and also the people who have the same interests with me. So I feel more connected with emotions, and it affects my way of thinking, because English, to be honest, changes the way of your the way of your thinking when you try to behave and, respond any issues that you can kind of like broaden yourself in a different way in many circumstances. So there's no gaps between you and your partner when you're talking about something. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. For
Mm,
you tell us your story, you're interesting about English and
mm.
anything. For your information, we have international students here. For maybe you can
Okay.
hear him. His name
Um.
is Tohir John.
Okay.
Tohir John Sarifov.
Nice to meet you. How
He's
are you doing?
from Tajikistan. For he's from
Wow.
Tajikistan. So far from Indonesia,
Kazakhstan.
of course. Have you ever heard
Yeah.
Tajikistan?
Ah. Yeah,
Yeah,
the name of the country, is quite familiar for me. I heard
familiar.
about Azerbaijan,
Yeah, something like that.
Kazakhstan.
Kazakhstan, Tajikistan,
Yeah, I think,
Uzbekistan.
those countries. Yeah,
Those
I think
countries.
those countries are nearby the Ukraine and
Russia,
Russia, if I'm not
Russia,
mistaken.
Ukraine, yeah, of course.
Yeah,
The part
the separated
Soviet,
countries from the Union
of
Soviet.
course, or the Soviet, part of Union Soviet in the
Yeah.
past. Tahirjan, thank you for joining us
Yes.
here. And then we
Yeah. Thank you.
have
Welcome.
nice discussion so far. And then I'm
Mm,
going to ask you uh, what do you think about English? How important learning language? How important learning English is in this era? And then
mm.
why did you
Well, I
choose
think. Okay.
English as your major when you study in
Well.
Polban?
Okay.
Why did you
Mm,
choose it?
mm. Okay, the first question. I think for the last decade we have faced a fast, mobilization, especially in globalization and the development of technology, and also, and of course, it forces us to attend and face, certain aspect of realities and certain aspects of, different lives when we have to compete with other countries in terms of, enhancing the ability of, our human resources. I think, yeah, in Indonesia there has been kind of like a total neglect from its people. I'm sorry, I have to say that, because I can kind of like catch the worst kind of like speculation from Indonesian people that English is something that doesn't have to be taken seriously. I'm still kind of like hearing that assumption from some people. Even they took English for their major. So because it's why our people are quite lacking in getting in being fluent in English, because they didn't have the intention, they didn't have the good willing to learn about it, they didn't want to face kind of like the reality, what's currently happening in our life, that we have to kind of like elevate your ranks as a human being in knowing about different cultural understandings, which is we have to be adapted with what the world is going on. And I think it's very significant. And another thing that's very crucial is when I think Indonesian people are focusing too much on the grammar, on the vocabularies and stuff like that, and they are faced with such kind of burden that I'm such kind of burden, like, oh, if I have to speak English, I need to learn about grammar and vocabularies. Oh, they are suck, and I felt like, oh, I can do nothing. So what I have to do, but you don't have to kind of like take those things at your kind of like at your worries at first, but you have to focus on listening and speaking first. The vocabularies, the grammar, will be followed automatically as long as you keep kind of like consistent with your learning process in English. Just starting from the simple things, simple thing, will kind of like bring an enormous impact in your kind of like in your English. And believe me, I know it may kind of like take a lot of time for you to be, to master to master English, especially if you want to speak very fluently. But yeah, as I said before, your patience is going to be tested. And why did I take English as my major? I think it was kind of like an accident, a coincidence, because I was kind of like following the suit, like I followed the vast majority.
Yeah.
Because my friend told me like, Ferdi, you're good at English. Why don't you, take English as your major? Just play safe and then blah, 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 blah. At a time, I was kind of like, I was accepted in international communication. Can did you believe, can you even imagine? I rejected the international, relation from UNPAD. And I just kind of like, and I just followed my friends. Okay. Yeah, international relations, because I like politics, I like law, I like, exploring about regulations and something. But I just kind of like, I just want to be with my friends at a time, because I was very young. I was very young and still naive, and didn't kind of like quite critical. Didn't be critical with my decision, and I just followed my friends. And being the victim in English major, which is, I think, like when I took English, it seems like you're learning in a course. You're learning in a course, and all the things have been has been discussed before, and I just kind of like a repetition. Why should I learn about this again? I have learned about this. I have got this before with my self-learning, but now what's done is done. I have to take it as for granted, like keep going on until I graduate from my university. But I think there is kind of like, there has been always a message behind the story. And then, I take it as as a message, as a reminder, but that you have to kind of like stand and stick with your own choice. Don't be influenced by people. Don't be other people, because other people are boring. You have to be different than the others. Don't want to follow the majority, but you have to be the minority. Be different is very good. It will kind of like, gain your self-confidence, and it will increase your personality, your personality, especially when you're dealing with different people. I think it's needed to be yourself, to be yourself.
Yeah, interesting for coincidence. You told us coincidence.
Yeah, coincidence.
You rejected international relationship from Ferdian University. Yeah,
I rejected it because of my friends, and I felt so regretful. To be honest.
What was your friend saying to you? So you rejected?
Like the terms of best friend forever. At the time, like, because we were in the same gang, from the same schools, from elementary schools until vocational high school, and we were thinking that we should be united whenever we are. whatever happens, it should be keep going on, like the friendship, like stuff like that. But it sucks, like, okay, I don't believe about that anymore. The more you're growing up, the more you're thinking about yourself, and those kind of relationship will be erased, maybe like erased, like, I don't know, like rapidly, and in a period of time. You have to fight with yourself. Don't rely on people. Don't rely on assumption. Don't be depending on what people are saying about you. Like, oh yes, I think I like the independent. I like the independence right now.
Yeah, for Interesting. Let's talk a little bit
Mm,
about accent. You
mm.
told it
Okay.
before. Maybe you've been learning
Mm.
accent. If I'm right, you've been learning British accent, but recently
Uh,
switched
yeah.
to American accent again. Is
Mm.
it right?
Yes.
Why?
Yeah. Yeah. I think. Well, I think I have to kind of like make it clear,
Yeah.
because
Okay.
when it comes to accent, people talking about, oh, did you speak like a Harry Potter, which is completely wrong. I don't speak like that.
Yeah.
I've been watching news like BBC, and I'm following the terms of BBC, British formal accent. And in the reality, I told you, like, I have like a British friend. He came from Newcastle, and he said, Ferdian, like in my country, and but not just in my region, but the entire UK, in their daily lives, normally people talking more understandable, more kind of like clearer, and not talking like the Harry Potter. The Harry Potter was using the old style of Scottish accent in the era, maybe in 1800. In 1800, can you believe that? They used that kind of accent in 1800. How many years ago? Maybe it's about 2 years ago, but it's not kind of like exists anymore. People, just kind of like we do when we're using the Sundanese language, or maybe like Indonesian. We're trying to speak more politely, normally, because we're trying to be, we want to be look professional. That's why we're trying to read off our origin accent. And it does exactly the same. It does apply to them as the British people. They're using their own accents when the occasion is about the informal. When the occasion is informal, but when it comes to formal, they will use the kind of like the soft accent, not the hard one. So this is kind of like the information that we should look at, because I think it's very important to further your understanding, and to straight your speculation about what British accent sounds like.
Yep.
It's not like what you've been thinking. It's not what you thought by watching the Harry Potter. So I've been practicing my British accent for nearly 6 years by watching news, because I like news, but sometimes I watch a political debate program from BBC Question Time. So yes, I think accent is about kind of like another technique in the way of getting a proper pronunciation. So pronunciation and accent is very related. This is the question, okay? To make it more kind of like rational and logical. How can you pronounce the word? How can you kind of like know the intonation, the proper stress, if you don't know the way they speak? In your dictionary, maybe you have some different types of Oxford dictionaries. There are two types of official accents in the world. The first one is American, and the second one is British. And as a result, you have to force yourself to find how do they speak, by watching them, by watching their cultures, their life, and also you are focusing to the accents. That's why you have to kind of like to start concerning about accent, because accent is one of the parts of having a proper pronunciation. If you want, underline it. If you want to sound more like British or American, you have to take accent as your primary one, as your priority. You have to kind of like, so accent is not the most important, but it is important. It doesn't mean about, as I said before, it doesn't mean about getting rid your accent, your origin accent, but it's about, are you easy to understand and enjoyable of having, having a new experience in learning about something, in getting something new. It's about just those kind of like those important messages. from the accent. But yeah, some people may have their own kind of like reasons why, why are they kind of like using accent in their English spoken. Maybe you want to kind of like to sound more sophisticated because you're looking for the fame. You want to be seen by the people. Oh, look, I'm the one who able to to speak with accent. So look at me. Or maybe because the company is because the company is requiring you to use the accent to make it more employable, because you're dealing with people with strong accents, with the clients who have strong accents like Singaporean, Indian accent, or even British for that matter. So, you have to getting rock with it, give it a go, like give it a go with the accent. So sometimes accent can be very crucial and important when it is required, when it is needed. It depends on the situation. That's it. It's not just about looking the fame and learning about the cultures, but it has so many reasons.
So do you think pronunciation is more important than accent?
There is. So I have to clarify this. There is kind of like, people keep saying accent is not important as long as we can pronounce the words perfectly, correctly. But then again, how can you know the good pronunciation without, hearing through the accents, without knowing about the accents? Because pronunciation is a part of the accent. It's a part of the accent. You have to watch them, the way they speak, the intonation. For example, like the word for example, the word of, let's say, can you give me a word like table? Okay, table. You can just say table, but you have to kind of like put the rhythm, the melody on your word, like table. You have to say like that, table, especially when there are different words in American and British, like apartment. In America, it is called as apartment, but in British, they call it as a flat. Yeah, so flat. See, different phrases that you should learn, and all of them came from accents. Yeah, from the nation, their social life. That's why when you're dealing with pronunciation, let's not forget that accent has been part of it. Okay, so yeah, that's it.
Okay, so I think in learning English and learning language, all of them are in one page. We have to take it all. We have to take it by process.
Yeah.
So we can gain the best result in learning language or in learning English. So let's talk.
Definitely.
Let's talk a little bit about the future of Indonesia, our country, our lovely country.
Okay.
If we compare to our neighborhood like Singapore or Malaysia, most of them speak fluently in English. India or maybe. So, what do you see in Indonesia? Do we have a bright future in English, especially in our country, in this country, or maybe in Bandung? Maybe do you have your point of view?
Well, I think there is kind of like a good step forward for Indonesian people in the future when it comes to English, because I think I don't know whether it is true or not, but I heard the fact that people say that Indonesian people are quite adaptable in kind of like in changing the way they speak. When it comes to Japanese, they can speak like a real Japanese person. When it comes to Spanish, like Korean, and also like English, they can kind of like change it. They can manage it properly, and their brain is good in programming all different kind of like new insights in their kind of like in their brain, and it will be kind of like implemented in their spoken. But yeah, I do believe there is a hope. There is kind of like a further kind of like advanced plans for all of us. Maybe like, I don't know, or when it happens, but I'm sure if we keep kind of like but the thing is, the education system also needs to be improved. Our English education is has been deeply imbalanced, and I've just kind of like got the kind of like the issue that the English was completely banned from elementary school, and it became the extracurricular. But at the time when I was in elementary school, it was kind of like becoming a primary one. Yeah. The important subject. But now the government has decided, the government has utterly failed by removing English from the curriculum, just becoming the extracurricular. That's why the kind of like the enthusiasm of the students itself has been kind of like going down, has been, very, very low. And I can see that. And people, instead of learning about English, people seem quite interesting in, learning about different things like gaming, being a YouTuber. But yeah, I don't know, like that's what I've seen, in the reality. I think, I don't know, maybe it would be different in some cases or in some areas, but in my area, in my circle, in my environmental, in my academical environment, that's what has been, happening in the reality. And yes, Malaysia has much better people who can speak English, because it also it was influenced by the colonization, because there were Malaysian was colonized and became one of the Commonwealth countries by the England at the time. Yeah. Like I'm not gonna lie, the influence, the influence of the environment would affect them as a whole, like would affect them very badly, until we can see English is the second language in Malaysia. They mix between Malay and English. Can you imagine? But English has become the primary one in Malaysia. It also kind of like applies in Thailand, and some in Thailand, if I'm not mistaken, Thailand, Cambodia, and Brunei. Brunei also uses English as the main language. So when info, I mean, like, so we're waiting about the question when Indonesia is being ready. When is Indonesia being ready about English? I think, we have to think quite a lot, especially for our kind of like practices, like the teachers, the lecturers, the students itself, need to be developed about their knowledge in English.
Of course. I firmly believe that we have a good prospect, we have good future.
Yes.
English, I do believe it. This is our responsible So,
yes, it does.
Of course. Let's talk a little bit about a job. Some of the students here are in the end of their college, in the last semester.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Wow! Congratulations.
Of course. I think they are in the end of their study. So.
It must be very difficult. It's
tough. It's tough for them, because they have to finish their final project. They have to write.
Oh no. I know how it felt. I know how it felt. Yeah, I know exactly.
What do you think about English? Is English important to be mastered in order to get a better job in outside, maybe? What do you think about it? Is it compulsory to be mastered in English?
Okay. Wow. In education, especially in the highest education in university, I think it needs, to be kind of like to be recognized as an obligation, because I I think like students like in university, or you can call it as in college, are more quite open-minded in absorbing new things, and they are mature. They are mature enough in kind of like in selecting new things, new aspects for their lives, like like learning about westernization. But you have to be like be a cherry picker. Just pick up the good things that can be beneficial for you, that can be useful for you, and you take it like, oh, it's a good thing, I can take it from the westernization. But in terms of English, yeah, it's very necessary. It needs to be done. It needs to be kind of like accomplished. If you kind of like if you take it seriously, if you want it very hardly, if you take English as your belonging, you have to keep focusing on that. And in university, I think all majors, like all majors are asking its students to be able to speak English in order to face the workplaces. Because like it's very funny, like for the last 2 years, every job vacancies, they're kind of like mentioning, they're stating that English is one of the important requirements. There is kind of like one sentence, between all the specific qualifications based on your major, like must be able to speak English, oral and written. Wow, I was like, oh, it's kind of like a challenge for you. Every major, not just in English. I got it from the engineer, from the health majors, and even from the math, the chemist, the physics. They're requiring English, because what we're using, what we have been using right now in terms of the technology, the books, the information, 70% is about English. 70%. Can you even kind of like imagine? 70% is about English. So I'd like you to start kind of like learning as much as you can, as harder as you can. The more you get information, the more kind of like you get exposures, the more confident you'll be, and the more you practice it, the more you record it, the better you'll become. So believe me, English will reward you handsomely if you take it as a friend. You have to be friend, with English from now on. Don't take it as a kind of like as a scary thing. Oh, because English is not my language, so I don't have to learn about that. No, it's completely wrong. You have to kind of like get sort of thinking out from your mind. Those negative voices should be ended now. If you want to kind of like, if you want to be, to be considered as a kind of like as a good learner, not just about English, but you can apply your English in your own major, in accounting, in management, in marketing, in international relation, in any majors. English can be implemented. It has become globally. It has become globally spreaded.
Yeah, thank you for your explanations. Maybe do you have experience, or maybe
my pleasure,
it happens to you, it happened to your friends, experience when you apply for the job and then your employer required English as a main requirement. Do you have any experience about it, maybe?
Yes. I get kind of like a lot of offerings during the pandemics, because my friends of mine who came from engineer, they asked me to teach them to speak English, at least for the basic conversation, because they really wanted to be working in a multinational companies or international companies, mostly the civil things. they always kind of like make a deal with foreign industries, with foreign countries, and that's why English is very kind of like needed. They came to me and asked, okay, Ferdi, I would pay, I would pay you, but please make me like at least like be quite fluent in talking to the people with daily life spoken. It's okay, but they came with hurry. They came with lots of anxious. Oh, I couldn't kind of like I wouldn't be accepted if I couldn't speak English. So I have to fulfill it. I have to fulfill this kind of like obligation. Please, Ferdian. Yes, as a friend, of course, I help them. Like, but there will be kind of like lots of problems because they are not from English, and their passions not quite that that bigger. I don't know, because they didn't kind of like deal with English. Then sometimes they feel they are being lazy. They are being kind of like like unstable. Like, oh, fair is too difficult. Can you give me an easy one, the easy one? Because I don't think it would kind of like suit on me. Oh, give me another one. Give me another one. Even I gave them for the materials from elementary students. They didn't. They didn't understand. They understand nothing. They had no idea what to say. So it's kind of like a challenge for me to how to find another method, an alternative way, in order to make them like at least knowing the basic things.
Okay, go to the next questions about. This is the big problem that I've seen, especially in my club with my students. This is about they afraid of speak English due to shame. They are shy. I think they good in terms of passive listening, and then maybe listening, but when they have to speak, I think this is the big obstacle for everyone. Some of my students, some of people to speak actively. It's the biggest obstacles, I think. Maybe do you have any tips how to try how to start speak actively?
Yeah. Okay, but first of all, we have to kind of like find the red line that has been solved, that hasn't been solved in Indonesia. There is a broader culture, in Indonesian people. When someone speaks English, they will kind of like mock him. They will underestimate him. They will kind of like give any kind of like bad claims about, oh, you are Indonesian, you don't have to speak, you don't have to sound like a native, you are exaggerating, you're so you're sounding like native. Oh, you do you want to be like a bule and something like that? Like that, I don't know, that's kind of those kind of stereotypes still being kind of like still being rooted in each individual in our country. That's why the person who's willingly to learn about English, they will have to kind of like like lose their dreams because they don't want to be seen by their friends, because their friends are not supportive.
Yeah.
I think you have to change your circle.
Yep.
You have to find some friends. You have to be kind of like gathered with friends who give you the support systems, especially about everything that you do, everything you had, everything you decided. It's very significant. I think you have to change your circle. That's what I'm doing. My previous friends, I would say, like they were quite kind of like pessimistic and maybe not quite open-minded. in dealing with English, and I decided to kind of like move away and find another thing that I needed. And joining to the English class, find some friends who always think actively and wisely, and always support me. Even for or even your parents, you have to kind of like straight their speculations, their perception about English. I discussed with my dad about the importance of English, and it was kind of like such a hot debate, because he kind of like came out with the old styles, way of thinking, like, don't learn about that. You're Indonesian. Just be Sundanese. Just be respect to your culture. Just be like Indonesian as usual. And I just kind of like, I just take a deep breath, like, okay, it's still happening. So, but keep telling them, keep convincing them. But now, fortunately, they have understood what's going on with our world. Oh yeah, I think English now is very, very important, and you have to take it. Yeah, I have to take it as my friend, and yes, just keep going on. So you have to, lose their stereotype, the stigma, the perception, and the bad issues about English. You don't think about what people think, like the majority of people think. Just kind of like ignore them, just find your own way, be looking forward about your future, about your dreams. What do you want to be? What do you want to do in the future? I want to be blah, 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 but English can be kind of like an extra, extra value for myself. I came from accountant major, so I will make English as a part of it. So English, you are good at your accountant, but at the same time, your English is very hilarious. Your English is different.
Yep. I think the connection is unstable again from Mr. Ferdian. So the participants here, I'll give you the time. Mira, Givari, Aul, Tohir, Fani, Intan, and Abi. If you have one questions, maybe just prepare it. Maybe you can ask Mr. Ferdian about what are you feeling right now. If you have any questions, just do it. Just prepare for the questions. Okay. Okay, we are still waiting for Mr. Ferdian. Okay, it's coming.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Okay. Can you hear my voice first? Hello? Hello, Bert? Is it
Yes,
clear?
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The connection, as usual.
Connection again.
Yeah, I can hear your voice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Connection again.
Yeah, connection again.
Sorry.
So, we have been discussing anything about English. So, I'll give the chance to my students to give you questions, at
Okay.
least one questions to you.
Whoa.
Anything they can ask.
I would be very grateful if I could answer your questions. Just make yourself comfortable. Make yourself comfortable. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
The part of active learning method. So I have to give the chance to my students. So I give the first chance to maybe Mira, maybe because you are the first participants who came here. I'll give you an honor to give Mr. Ferdian a questions. So please
Okay.
give him a question, Mira.
So
Anything about anything.
who's gonna ask me?
Okay.
Mira.
Okay. Thank you for
Okay.
thank you for sharing your experience. And your accent is so good and make me insecure. I wanna ask about you started learning English from 2019, right?
That's very kind of you.
Can you tell us what your challenge when you're learning English for 6 years? Like I have in my